he left in all the wonderful 1980s space opera drama, complete with existential crises between the nature of good and evil, a not magic system, a duel of the fates, slugs, and
mushrooms!
So many slugs, which, unlike the mushrooms, I don't think are a 1980s thing, but it's not like I remember the 1980s, so please let me know if you do down in the comments. Hey you geeks, it's time that we mark the end of the era of the Cytoverse, or as I like to think of it, Paradise Lost, for kids.
You know, for kids.
Fortunately for us, Sanderson left out most of the overt references to that particular inspirational source for the series. On to my spoilerific breakdown of characters, world building, magic system, and plot, because every so often I just can't count to 10 anymore. Spensa. It's nice to see that my biggest long-standing gripe about Sanderson abandoning the crew in book 2 has become a character flaw of Spensa herself.
I have to do this alone.
What is this to you, playtime?
The target YA audience probably won't feel a sense of deja vu over that, nor would they feel it when a middle-aged male crazy voice takes lodging in Spensa's head, causing her to make the resolution to turn herself hard and into a weapon.
I don't feel anything emotionally except for rage. 24/7, 365, at 1,000,000%.
But Sanderson keeps it fresh by moving quickly through these points, then trapping Spensa in a box or captivity. At the summit of Spensa's emotional journey to maturity, Sanderson has her lose her grandmother in such an totally Nightshade way to go. Sure, we've had character deaths before, but no one means as much to Spensa or the reader as her grandmother did. The pain is real and raw and very understandable to a YA audience and, well, children of all ages. Thus, having Spensa work through this pain and decide to stay and help her friends through it is very much the emotional arc of this entire story for almost every character. And I love it. Mbot. I was totally scared at the end of last book that Mbot had met the same fate as the Skyward crew, abandoned by Sanderson for the new shiny AI of Chet. However, Chet was not my AI.
And I know I'm not your father.
Then stop pretending to be.
Thankfully, my fears were not realized as Mbot comes back as, he says a ghost, but also not a ghost. Either way, he's another voice in Spensa's head, here to help guide her on her journey through the heavens?
And where would a brave knight be without his noble steed?
But also as her guide, I've been thinking of him as Morrowbot for, Virgil. But I do get a kick out of him referring to himself as Mushroombot. I know that Sanderson, like Kaladin and now Mbot, has a thing about what name he wants people to call him.
I told you before, my name's Coda. Say it with me. Coda.
Which is totally fair, but I think Sanderson has also made peace with the fact that some names are gifts and signs of endearment, no matter how offensive or insulting and unwanted they may be. Hence the whole jerk face naming. Back to Mbot. He comes to maturity like Spensa as well in this book, though he focuses more on his moral culpability of his actions, and it's so wonderfully Sanderson philosophical without putting on all the airs of hoity-toity philosophy books. Hence why it's so in character for Mbot to not want to bother with starting a religion after he, says he resurrects from the dead and makes himself his old body anew through the power of his spirit. Oh look, an entire metaphysical can of worms that Sanderson has opened up for us, but I am not gonna go there, and will instead go onward to Jorgen. It's so nice to be back with the old flight and see them shoulder the new responsibilities they've undertaken in Spence's absence. In Jorgen's case, it's quite literal, as he's got shiny new epaulets just in time to pair with the weight of Spence's impulsiveness.
First rule of leadership: everything is your fault.
He really has his whole own arc going on in this book. First with him prioritizing the destination over the journey towards becoming a peaceful spacefaring civilization. Though Sanderson, probably with Jancy's help, still gives Jorgen and Spensa time to be teenagers in love together and find intimacy without actually going all the way to sex. Their fight and Spensa's eventual apology perfectly tease up Jorgen's growth to rethink his destination before journey mindset and ultimately give in to FM's insistence that they prioritize the well-being of the slugs over saving themselves. Unfortunately, because this is limited to Spensa's POV, mostly, that revelation is saved as a dramatic reveal for the end. But we do love Sanderson for his dramatic reveals, so at least the arc happens. Doomslug. Like Jorgen, we only get to witness her character development through the lens of Spence's journey, starting with her important revelation from Chet that not all Delvers are scary.
It's not bad at all, really. Maybe it just needs a little love.
This plot development, though small, is really the stone that starts the avalanche of empathy, which grows exponentially through the example of comfort and the Taeniks learning to give empathy to each other, as it's their empathy which allows the Delvers to break free of their self-created hell of pain, and then swoop in to save the Taeniks themselves from Braid's evil designs. I wonder if Sanderson has a thing for making Books 1's Eldritch Monsters the heroes of the finale.
Is this gonna become a regular thing with you?
Hesho. He's such a strange character type. Like, pint-sized former emperor of alien planet isn't exactly a well-established character type, at least not in the sci-fi I'm familiar with. Yet Sanderson writes him as the perfect foil for Spensa. Both struggle with feeling kicked out of the society that they love, and both toy with the idea of the Lone Ranger Ronin lifestyle. And accordingly, both talk each other out of that lifestyle. In the end, he ends up a pint-sized space ninja with a laser sword. And that's a type I've seen before. And it will never get old, although I have mixed feelings about the prequels. World building. Defiant brings us back to the good old space platforms of Detritus, where Sanderson has well established how a bunch of teenagers got in charge of an interplanetary space force by killing all the adults. Since it's Spensa and co. in charge now, they and the readers are given all the raw data by which they can make their strategic decisions and we, the readers, understand. such as we understand their decision to go attack Luna, which, incidentally, checked another point on my C.S. Lewis Space Trilogy bingo card, as we are treated to a Luna that is half desolate and half verdant. This could be entirely coincidental, but it amuses me as we barrel forward with Spensa and the adventures of Star Command.
As a member of the elite Universe Protection Unit of the Space Ranger Corps, I protect the galaxy from the threat of invasion from the evil Emperor Zurg, sworn enemy of the Galactic Alliance.
Until, of course, the midpoint, where Spensa gets kidnapped, damseled, and we get to spend another quarter of the book with her trying to get out of the box! Although we don't see much at first, these chapters cytonically introduce us to the slave Tanix occupants of Evensong in a very personal way. Then, through Spensa's escape attempts, we get to see the rest of the platforms and the defenses and the giant space worms that make the board for the final battle. Begun, of course, by Braid's sudden but inevitable betrayal.
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
Sanderson sort of hand-waving how Braid came into power and the superiority stands in stark contrast to all the work he put in on the Defiant side. So I'll buy Braid's rise as plausible and understand that this is a YA novel with a limited first-person POV, and Spensa does not understand how everything works. Which is a good thing, because if she did, this would be a very boring book. Cytonics. Spensa's whole soul melding with Chet is still a bit weird in my brain, but it is more understood than whatever it was that Vin did in The Hero of Ages. So yay for Sanderson's growth as an author. Though he's still a bit vague for him on the details of Spensa's powers, he does a very good job of using them to physically manifest anxiety attacks. So the readers can see on so many levels that Spensa's hold on reality is slipping as her brain spirals down in despair. Likewise, her friends in the book can see
phenomenal cosmic powers!
Itty-bitty living space.
and a vague sense that something is wrong as they try to comfort her through whatever this is. Sanderson seems to use cytonics to weaponize, plot mechanize, and computerize what an average teenager experiences during a mental breakdown, without having to resort to the DSM-5, because Chet is an AI, and therefore not human, though we can still relate to this because we've all been there somewhat before. We've all felt like reality is just tearing itself apart around us and it's all our fault. Or as I like to call it, a Tuesday.
Tuesday morning, the disaster! Incoming!
To add plot-relevant insult to injury, it's this power and weakness that Braid exploits to take Spensa away from her friends and isolate her, hoping to cast her into despair, but then Spensa unlocks the new superpower of empathy, by which the entire plot is driven forward. Plot. This series began as the story of Spensa's rage against the war machine that killed her father, ruined her childhood, and reshaped her entire culture. But instead of the story we know so well about how angsty warrior goes on to feed the cycle of violence and everything stinks, Sanderson gives us a new ending as Spencer discovers to defy the galaxy by caring for others around her.
I used to wonder what friendship could be. Until you all shared its magic with me.
This plot focus of Spencer's growth in empathy from Rig to Comfort to Doomslug to the Delvers is why her sudden ability to bring somewhere to the Delvers and wrap them in a cycle of pain is sort of hand-waved, but it's also sort of the philosophical definition of Christian hell in some denominations, which is interesting. But unlike the souls in hell, the Delvers still have the ability to change, even if they don't believe they do. So it's the Tanix and their empathy that allows the Delvers to change, though not all do. Whimsic, Braid, and some Delvers choose to selfishly look inward than care for those around them.
Wipe them out. All of them.
Because it wouldn't be a Sanderson story without the villains getting their comeuppance. Whimsic gets a crowbar to the exoskeleton, and Braid gets shot by Spencer, but not Spencer alone. Because Spencer has been growing and trying to express her care for the people around her, her flight does not abandon her in the end. And it's so beautiful. With the superiority sufficiently squashed, Skyward flight is poised again to take off into the wild black yonder.
Your ongoing mission? To explore strange new worlds. To seek out new life forms and new civilizations. To boldly go where no one has gone before.
The Cytoverse may not have been the series I was expecting, but it was so much better than I could have expected. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. So hope to see you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye!